very first thing that we need to be thinking about is time. Currently, we measure professional development in minutes or hours, and it's just wrong. We can't do that. My school will give teachers 18 hours of flex time. What usually ends up happening by the end of the year is a typical teacher will have tried 18 different things over the course of the year and mastered none of them because it's just been a shotgun approach. We need to look at time differently. We need to think on it at a different scale when it comes to professional learning. The Center for Public Education released a report that outlines the 5 principles for PD, and it shows that up to 50 hours is needed for learning to be mastered and implemented. But we don't do that. We don't give teachers that time to master what they do. We throw it out in one session and then get going. And then when we tell them to get going, well, they're usually standing there by themselves, trying to put it in all alone. There has to be support for the teachers during the implementation stage to address those very specific things that are going to happen in a room. Every classroom is different, every child is different, every year is different, and you need time to master that. But you can't do it by yourself because your frame of reference is so limited. We really need to be bringing in more people to that. If schools want their teachers to change the instruction, then when they're implementing it, they have to be supported more with very explicit professional development offerings, and this is really critical. Thinking things like the PLC or coaching models to support those implementations are really what we need to be looking at. With brings in more people, more viewpoints, and more support for our teachers during that up to 50 hours that they're working on mastering the content. But we do this sage on the stage thing, and we tell teachers, don't be the sage on the stage in your classroom, but I'm going to do that here in front of you. I'm not going to model it. I'm not going to do it we say you should be doing. And we're going to spend up to $18,000 a year per teacher for professional development, and then wonder why the results aren't following in the classroom. Really what needs to be happening is that teachers' exposure to these concepts should be engaging, and it should be varied, and they need to participate in it actively to make sense of what's going on. They need to discuss it with other teachers and toss ideas out and try things out and role play it and test it out at the moment that they're getting started in it. But again, we just want to bore them to death. So what are we really modeling? We know that there's just the evidence is there that this type of environment for training doesn't help get teachers where they need to be. We need to be doing things with smaller groups, one-on-one, instructional coaching type ideas that bring in the modeling that's highly effective, and it helps teachers understand those practices so that they can talk with someone, they can work with someone, they can see somebody else doing it and watch, and then try it out with someone helping them and pointing out along the way how they can be better at it. But we go with this one-size-fits-all approach. We throw everybody in the room together, maybe the whole campus, maybe the whole department, and just assume that everybody's going to take nuggets away from it. We're going to assume that CTE teacher can gain just as much information as a world history teacher in the same room together, or that Algebra 1 and Calculus are going to be using the same models and the same processes to teach their students at the same time. And no, what we find is that there's no correlation to those, that it just doesn't work. We really have to be changing that. We have to present the content in a not generic way, very specific for those disciplines. Middle and high school teachers are very different than elementary school teachers because the students they're working with are very different. The environments are very different. The learning process at that moment is very different, and we have to take that into account, and we have to be very specific in the way we're training if we want to see those results transfer to the classroom.